So even a demon possessed man has the ability to turn to Christ. This video, we're going to watch this man talk about his experiences of literally going into that demon possessed world and summoning demons and getting a head start at life, all by submitting himself to these demons. Let's get into this.
Which I know now to be a demon over my body, compressing me, like holding me down. And I'd have different experiences, different types of demons come and do this to me. But it would be extremely terrifying. Like one of the scariest things probably one of the scariest things anyone could ever experience. And I know a lot of people do have this happen to them once or twice in their life, but for me it was actually quite regular, maybe once every few months. And because of those experiences, I developed insomnia, so I could not sleep at all. At this point, I had become extremely rebellious, very depressed kid, didn't believe in anything, was constantly haunted by these things. So I was in a really bad state. I used to make games and animations for this website, and I started this like production company as like a hobby to make these things, and I called it Nataz Productions, which Nataz backwards is Satan.
That's just usually when this stuff starts, is in the the children developing stages. This is why it's important, and I really feel that the Bible puts like a huge stress on this about training children up, because this is where it happens. But right now, if you notice, all the changes that are happening in the world and all the things that are happening for like the demise of the Word of God and for the demise of Christianity, they start to implement that stuff into the schools. They start to implement it into the children. So that way, when they bring up that next generation, they're already behaving this way. They already have these understandings and these values or these spiritual holdings that they have. Let's keep this going.
The reason I did that is because I started to really get into the occult. There was two reasons. One, for spirituality. I was a very spiritual person. The second reason is because there's a lot of art in the occult. You know, you start learning about these things like sacred geometry and, you know, the art from centuries ago that was inspired by the occultism. And so I started really getting into like conspiracy theories and the occultism, and there's a lot of people talking about how they draw power from demons, they draw power from Satan, and you know, all the people in the music industry, like the Illuminati, like Jay-Z, they draw power from Satan, and that's how they get successful.
I did a video on this where I talked about celebrities that openly talked about how they sold their soul to the devil for the fame that they have now. And some of them even came out and talked about how they were no longer happy after doing it, almost regretting that decision. This is real. This stuff is real, man. This stuff is real. And people try to avoid it, and people don't want to pay attention to it. But when you hear these factual stories like this guy here, the Illuminati, the people that sell their souls to the devil to get to the fame that they want, to get to the places that they're trying to get to, and we're supporting those people. Some of us are actually supporting these celebrities and these people that have done that, and you don't even really know what you're supporting. So why you got to be careful. Let's keep this going. Let's hear what he has to say.
And because I grew up so poor, I was like, I'm going to be successful no matter what it takes, because I don't want to live, you know, poor. I don't want to live without the lights on. I don't want to live without food. I want to be successful, and not just successful, but I want to be super rich and powerful, like Jay-Z. You know, that's what I was sort of being influenced by at the time. I started to draw from the power from these things, and I was making things, and I remember like I'd stay up really, really late to like 3 a.m. every night making cartoons and games inspired by Japanese culture and occultism. And I would feel the presence of these things in the room with me, these demonic spirits in the room with me, like just like whispering in my ear, like, oh, what if you did this? What if you added this? It would be so much better if you put this in. And they were scary, but it was working. So I was like embracing it and just trying to, at the same time I felt brave. I was like, oh, look how brave I am. I'm dealing with demons. Like, how many people can say that they're like embracing demons, they're brave enough to embrace demons, you know? And that's sort of how they get you. And so I got really involved in conspiracy theories and the occult, and it was weird. It's kind of ironic because I hated the people who were successful, like the politicians. Like, I didn't have that success, and was like, how do I get
And
that?
that's usually when people go to selling their souls and starting to practice these demonic things, is when they reach this point that a lot of people reach. And the thing is, people think that they're alone, but they're not. A lot of people get to this point in their life where they're really trying to figure out how can they possess the things that they're looking for in life. How can they get to that next level? How can they be able to provide for their families? How can they reach the success in their individual endeavors? Any of that stuff. People are asking these same questions. But what happens is that, like he said in the beginning, he's like, oh, I can deal with demons. This is no big deal. Look at me. I'm dealing with demons. Because in the beginning, they make it seem like it's simple. They make it seem like it's okay because you get easily and very fastly rewarded with everything that you're looking for. All those questions that a lot of people have. How am I going to pay my next bills? How am I going to stop struggling? When is this going to end? When am I going to be able to get to a better place? When is my life going to look better? When am I going to reach my dreams? All those things that people have. People are in these positions, but they sell their souls. These people sell their souls because they're able to get what they want very fast. And in the beginning, everything is peaches and cream. But let's listen to what he says about how it happens as the longer he gets into it and the more like succumbed he had to become to these demons, even when he didn't really want to. Let's keep this going.
I hated them at the same time for being successful, so it was kind of ironic. But yeah, I was really involved in media, making music and videos and animations, video games, and tying that to my spirituality. I started working for a sales company. At this time I was like 18, and it was door-to-door sales, and it was commission only, so you only made money if you sold. And it was very intense, and I wasn't making much money. And at this point, I was very into spirituality. Jesus was nothing in my life, no religion whatsoever. At this point in my life, I became very anti-religion, and I didn't want anything to do with any Jesus, any church, anything like that. And I started really invoking this spirituality a lot more, and this sort of demonic presence more through like hallucinogenic drugs. So I took LSD a few times and MDMA mixed in mushrooms. And I would really have these spiritual experiences.
People used to always tell me this all the time. Back in the day in college, there was a lot of people that go to raves. That was like a big thing. I'm pretty sure it's still a big thing. I mean, I was never into it just because I just would kind of look at things from the outside and be like, dude, there's just no way this can be a safe environment. So people would go to these things, and of course at these events the biggest thing to do is kind of like pop pills, and they say it's for like the experience. It gives you this out of body experience, and a lot of people connect that to spirituality. And I've heard people firsthand tell me about their experiences with these drugs, and they connect it to the spiritual world. And yes, it definitely is a spiritual experience, but it's not the one that you're wanting. Sure, it like fits for that mold, it fits for that type of event, for the things that are already actively going on there in that spiritual realm that you cannot see, but it's not the spiritual realm that you really want to tap into. It's not those spiritual heights that you think you're getting. It's almost more control that the devil can get of you when you put yourself in these vulnerable positions. Let's keep this going.
Be visited again by these things that I recognized from my childhood that would visit me back when I was a kid, having these really intense nightmares, and the sleep paralysis came back. But I felt the power that they were giving me. It's like I would almost pray to them, and they would answer my prayers, and they would give me what I like asked for. But it would always come with like repercussions or haunting, some like evil presence coming around me. And then I started getting back into making music. So I started rapping. I started making some music with a friend who was also a rapper, who was actually really deep into it. Would smoke a lot of weed, would drink alcohol, and then we would start making these songs. And my SoundCloud started to get really popular very quickly. And everything I sort of asked for was coming true. It was working. And it would even get to the point, it sounds silly, but it would even get to the point where I'm making my music and I'm producing and I'm twisting all the digital dials and bars and everything to adjust the production of the music. And it would just sound best if it was set to like 666 or something like that, And then I'd be like, no way, this is a bit silly. And I'd try and change the dials so they wouldn't add up to 666, but every time I changed the dials, it wouldn't sound right. and then I'd hear this like voice or feel this presence in the room that'd be like, change it back to 666. And
See, that's why when the Bible talks about those portals, those things that we receive, the eyes, things that we watch, ears, things that we listen to, we don't know the things that happen in these recording studios. We don't really know all the intricate details that go behind the music that gets produced that's highly sought after by us as consumers. We don't get to see that, but hearing with this guy, someone who said his SoundCloud, sure, it's just a SoundCloud, but here, other than there, it still was growing. Like he said, he was getting some good traction on it. This guy's SoundCloud was blowing up, and the music he was creating, it was mandated, and you're going to hear it a little bit more. It was mandated, as he said, there was a voice saying, change it back. And every time he tried to go outside of that realm, it didn't sound quite good. But as long as he kept that mark, which was the sign of the mark of that beast, on his music and the intricate details with the mixing and everything on that song, as long as he kept that mark there, he was in a position where it would grow. But guess what? On the other end, we're the ones listening to that. We're the ones hearing it. And this music and these songs that feel good, or we make them number one on our playlist, or it's how we start our day, it's how we get through the day, it's what we resonate with, have marks in them that we don't even know about. That's why it's extremely important to be very vigilant, armed up, protected. You know what I mean? Don't be afraid to question something. Don't just follow the masses. There's a lot of people out there following the masses. Don't just follow the masses. Don't be afraid to ask a question. Question, curiosity. I know people say curiosity killed the cat, but curiosity might just save you from danger. Let's keep this going.
Sound the best. So I'd change it back and then it would work. And that's like one little thing, but it was so many different things that sort of all added up that I realized how real this was. So it started to get really successful. But I fell into depression again. So we came into COVID lockdowns here. I was living in Sydney at the time, and our lockdowns were really harsh. We weren't allowed to leave the house for more than an hour a day. And so I was alone in my one-bedroom apartment. I had, everything I ever wanted. I had so much money. I owned everything that I wanted, and I was so successful and getting more and more successful every single day. But I started to think, that saying and from the occultism, and thinking back to Jay-Z about how you sell your soul to the devil. And I always thought that was metaphorical, but sort of had some truth to it. And then now that I was so involved in these demonic spirits, like I've come to realize, no, wait, this is real. And one of the things that they do, these demonic spirits, is they constantly trick you into thinking that, like, yes, keep drawing power from us, but we're not that bad. It's not that, what you're doing is not that bad. And we're not the demons from the Bible. Like, we've been misrepresented. There's some goodness to us, or we're misunderstood. So that sort of keeps you like, oh, okay, they're not that bad, they're not that bad. Especially with like Japanese culture, like you can befriend them. But I started to realize that, like,
that's the whole point, man. That's what the devil does. We're not that bad. We're not those demons. We're not those devils. That's take me back to the garden, man. That's what happened. Surely you won't die if you take a bite of this. Sure, you won't surely die. It makes it feel good, makes you feel like you're right where you need to be. And then that's why people come up with all these justifications. And that's why we're in a world right now where there's so many people bickering and arguing and fighting back and back. Because you have all these people that have really no real ground to back up what they're doing, but yet they're the ones fighting so much. And then the truth comes out in situations like this, where the people who are fighting against Christ, people who are fighting against the knowledge, people are fighting who are fighting to come into a new life with Christ and walk a new walk, what have you. People come out like this and put the proof in the pudding and just share it with each and every one of us and tell us that, bro, this isn't the life. This is not the life that you want to live. This is not the life that you should live. And take it from him, from personal experience. He did it and won it out and turned to Christ. This is just part one, guys. I'm going to put part two out on this one. If you liked this one, I appreciate it. If you stayed this long, I also appreciate that even more. I got a lot more stuff like this on my channel. Go ahead and check that out. But this is just part one. I'm going to drop a part two. Stay tuned for that. That's all I got for this one, guys. I'm out.